Hello, people of the internet. My name is Kat. I am one of the Oxvloggers, meaning I go to Oxford and I make videos. Currently finishing up a master's in neuroscience. Last year I did a master's in experimental psychology at St. Anne's College, Oxford. Right now I'm at Teddy Hall. And next year for my DPhil or PhD, I will be at Keble College. Okay, so that is me. Today's topic comes requested from someone on Instagram. I'm so glad people are like messaging on Instagram. How nice. I barely post, I'm sorry, I'm trying to post more. But anyways, so this person had questions regarding applying to Oxford as an undergraduate student coming from the US. So, despite my accent, which is deceiving actually, I am not American, neither Canadian, nor from the US. I'm actually from Germany. My family just lived in the US when I was little for 5 years, and I did my undergraduate degree in the US, and that's kind of why I have this accent. So I can't talk from first-hand experience because I did my undergraduate degree in the US, but I did ask some people who are doing their undergrad at Oxford coming from the US, and I have some notes from things that they've told me, and so we will be talking about that. Also, during my undergrad degree, I actually worked in the Office of Admissions for my college, and things that I did there was actually interview prospective students. So I do know the US admissions side quite well, given that, you know, I worked in an admissions office and also I applied myself. So I can compare it a little. Hopefully this is useful for not just US students, but some others as well. Yeah, let's get right into it. Also, wrong side. This is very confusing. Sorry. Back there, next to this plant, is Mimo again. Yay. Mimo really likes sleeping in my bed at the moment. She might wake up at some point and just be like, wow. So, you might see that, might not. Okay. People were saying that my videos are entertaining, so I'm glad because I feel like I'm just rambling. Anyways, so if you are from the US and you want to apply to Oxford, there's a couple things you should know. First of all, when you apply to college in the US, you typically use this system called the Common App, where you write like one college essay and you upload your scores and your transcripts, or they're sent through it, I don't know, whatever. And you can apply to a bunch of colleges that way. So the UK has a similar type of standardized system called UCAS, UCAS, I think. And so similar to the Common App, you just write one personal statement with which you can then apply to several universities. The thing is, you cannot apply to both Cambridge and Oxford. You have to choose. So, just letting you know. I mean, I personally root for Oxford. But no, people love Cambridge who went there as well, so it's your decision. Okay, and the general primary focus of admissions decisions in the UK are based on academic achievements. They don't care so much about extracurriculars and things like that. And also, main difference is when I applied to college, I just applied and I applied to college, not a course / major / degree. And then in college, I decided what I actually wanted to study and declared my major. In the UK, and it's also the same in Germany, and I'm sure many other countries as well, you apply for one specific degree. So I already got to know before what you want to do, and it's not like you can double major, so do 2 degrees at once, 2 topics. You can't major and minor, all that stuff. Nope, gotta decide, stick with it. That's it. And the general requirements, this, by the way, can all be found on the Oxford website, and I will link everything down below. The general requirements are that you either took the SAT or the ACT, as well as AP classes or SAT subject tests. So SAT or ACT are two American standardized tests for college. If you're not from the US, don't worry about it too much. There are information listed for every country on the Oxford website, so you can see what the requirements are for your country. So if you're taking the SAT, you need at least 1,470 points out of 1,600. That's the requirement to even apply. If you took the ACT, you need at least 32 out of 36 points. For AP classes, you need at least 3 AP classes in appropriate subjects, so that means something related to the degree you're applying to, and you need to get 5. So the highest score, if I'm not mistaken, is 5. So you need a 5 and at least 3. Or you can take the SAT subject test for at least 3 appropriate subjects, and you need at least 700 in each of those. Also, you need to check for the specific course you're applying to, because there might be additional specific requirements, and they said that specifically like sciencey subjects might need that, so definitely check it out. Also, big thing that they do not do that many US colleges do, including the one that I went to, and I had this question a lot when I was meeting with prospective students and families, is whether you can superscore your SAT. So super scoring, for those that aren't quite familiar with it, you can take the SAT several times, and there's 3 main kind of parts to it. What is it, like reading, math, writing, English? Sorry, been a while since I took it. But yeah, so there is no super scoring, meaning that they're not selecting your highest score from each of those like subject areas. Rather, they just like take the SAT score that you sent them as a whole, so that would be the total maximum of 1,600, and that's it. Like, they do not care about super scoring. Whereas colleges in the US, some of them, they will select your highest achieved points in each of those 3 categories and then make up your super score. So obviously that still means that you can take the SAT several times and submit the one where you did best, but it's not like you can take it to specifically improve in math and don't focus on the rest kind of situation, if that makes sense. Again, I'd like to point out at this point, I'm not American. Okay, then something that kind of is really different from US college admissions to UK admissions is that, like, as I mentioned before, it's focused on academic achievements. They really, really don't care about extracurriculars, in the sense that they couldn't care less if you were the captain of your football team. Doesn't matter. I had that a lot in kind of interviews that I conducted, and people were like, oh, and I'm in French club, and I'm like, oh, and what do you do in French club? And they're like, well, we just meet once a week and discuss French things, and one time we made crepes. And I'm like, you know, that really doesn't speak to you or your academic abilities whatsoever. So keep things like that in mind. The only difference is kind of extracurricular activities or things that you've done, such as extra classes you've taken online, things like that that are related to the subject that you are trying to study, the subject for which you are applying for. And this brings us to the personal statement. So back in the day, when I interviewed prospective students, I would ask them what kind of thing they were interested in majoring in, and people would be like, oh, I think, going back to the French example, I'd like to major in French. And I'm like, oh, okay, so, you know, why? And they're like, well, it was my favorite subject in school and I would love to go to France one day. And I'm like, right. So in the US, since they take a lot of different things into account, you know, maybe that's fine. In the UK, that's not gonna cut it. Like, your whole personal statement, so your whole essay, college essay that you write, needs to be about, this is on the next page, sorry, I have notes, needs to be about why are you applying to the specific subject, like, you know, why are you interested in it? Saying that you love the language doesn't count. Saying you want to study psychology because you want to understand people's behavior doesn't count. What have you done surrounding that interest? That kind of goes back to those extracurriculars that are related to it. Again, it needs to be more meaningful than I went to French club, or even if you're the president of French club, doesn't matter. Like, do something that shows that you're engaged in your subject otherwise. I also currently work as kind of like an admissions tutor for a tutoring company that helps applicants prepare for UK universities, and specifically Oxford and Cambridge. And so some of the things there are like extra online classes that they've taken from universities, kind of things like that, projects they worked on, potential internships that they had, volunteer experience if that's related to what you want to study. It really is not sufficient to do French club, or even it's not sufficient to say you went abroad. Like, it just shows more your privilege than anything that you were able to have the funds to travel abroad to Europe, which is not a country, by the way, to, I don't know, for 2 weeks to get to know the culture, or you travel to Paraguay with your school on a mission trip, or I guess that would have been church, things like that. It needs to be more meaningful, and if it's not, think of a way in which you can make it more meaningful, if that makes sense. Sorry, I feel like I'm being very salty. That is not intentional. I'm sorry. Yes. Also, in the US, the Office of Admissions makes the decisions about who gets in and who doesn't. So these are literally people that all they do year-round is attract applicants and prospective students, and then evaluate their applications, decide who gets in and who doesn't. In the UK, or, okay, let's not say UK, let's say Oxford, because I'm not sure about other places. It is actually academics in the field that you're applying to that are making the decision. So if you're applying to the maths department, you want to do your degree in maths, then those are math professors that are evaluating your personal statement. They are conducting your interviews. Interviews is a whole nother thing because they are not like American interviews. They are literally asking you about your knowledge in the degree you want to study, and also your ability to critically think and think on your feet, and what types of answers you give and for questions that you don't actually know the answer to. They want to see how you think. So not so much about motivation, more about knowledge, I guess. Yes, and so if you get into Oxford, you are selected based on your academic criteria alone. The website makes this very clear, so just so you're aware. Then, yes, I recommend thinking about the personal statement similar to the way you would write a cover letter. You know, why should the company hire you? What skills can you bring? What have you done? What sets you apart from other candidates? And less like the US college essay, which is what are like the typical Common App questions, like write about a distinct moment in your life, something like that. So just be aware of that difference and communicate those requirements with your college counselors so that or teachers or whoever you're working with so that they can appropriately communicate, not communicate, advise on that. Yeah. Then I had some questions about the life as an international student, or specifically as a student from the US, as an undergrad. And the answers that I got were, first of all, there's a good number of international undergraduates, not as many as postgraduates, but a good number, but not many Americans. So most US students at Oxford are actually doing exchanges, so they'll be there for between 1 term and 1 year. However, it is not difficult to assimilate into the culture and get to know people and all of that. We still have a bunch of different societies, and you have your college and everything, so it's fine. It's all good. They accept you. They may make fun of, like, you know, kindly make fun, what's the word for it? Forget it. But, you know, differences like saying pants instead of trousers when pants in the UK mean underwear, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And then this person also wanted to know if there are any cons of being a US undergraduate at Oxford, and several that were listed are that the terms are very short. So there are 3 terms per year, each of which is 8 weeks long, and followed by a 6-week break. So this can also be a pro because that means you can go home for 6 weeks. Depends on how you see it. And also many colleges make you move out of college accommodation in those breaks. So you need to constantly be moving your stuff, and you can't have too much stuff in your accommodation because you need to be aware that within 8 weeks you need to move out again. That being said, a pro is that usually you get a single, like your own room. That's very much the standard in the UK, not so much in the US. So yay for singles. Yeah, and also another con, I suppose, is that there are no specific scholarships for US undergraduate students. You are, however, eligible for the US government's student loans. You can do that. And you do have to pay international student tuition, which the website says is very competitive with US universities. Yeah, but overall, you know, bottom line, if you want to, might as well apply. It is a lot of work because you do have to write an additional personal statement that is going to be different than the one you write for your American colleges. But yeah, if you're really into it and you're very much kind of that academic type of person, then do it. Also, GPAs don't matter too much. More SAT/ACT, your AP classes / SAT subject scores. Okay, I can see that I've been talking for actually a very long time. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be making one more video fairly soon about my experiences with my 2 master's programs, but if you have any more specific questions or video requests, please let me know in the comments, on Instagram, on Facebook, anywhere. Alright, have a good one, everyone. Stay safe during this pandemic. And Mimo says bye, even though she slept through this whole thing.